What up, friends? You don't see those two words every day. And today we're going to be reviewing the newest album by Zeal Ardor. It's a self-titled, actually. Zeal Ardor. This is the third album overall by the avant-garde metal band Zeal Ardor. The group has a pretty interesting take on the metal genre, combining experimental metal stylings with some blues, rock, and even some traditional African and African-American spiritual music. Their 2018 album Stranger Fruit was the peak of this experimentation in my opinion, offering power-packed instrumentals and vocals alongside delivering some pretty biting social commentary. Unfortunately though, this new album by them sees them stripping back all of those elements on almost all fronts. While it's not technically bad, a lot of what's on this project is veering very close to metal and metalcore tropes. All of it just feels like a very toned down version of what they were doing before, not really making as much of an impact on the scene as a whole compared to their previous release. I will say though that the industrial sounding self-titled intro isn't a bad place to start. It's short but it gets the job done, setting an ominous tone with its droning guitar passages. The vocals are also pretty good on here and match the serious instrumental. I can honestly see a group like Highly Suspect over this, when Highly Suspect was actually doing rock music. I think the lyrics also do a pretty good job at introducing the themes of being freed from your shackles, in a sense. Run is not a bad first main song, however, it does feel pretty standard. The guttural vocals sound kinda awkward being used as a hook, and the riffs, while intense, are also not really doing anything too intricate. However, I do like how oppressive they are, feeling like a constant presence throughout the entire song. The chorus is a pretty good culmination of the track's more intense sounds, however, I can't say that it's nothing I haven't heard before. I also think the lyrics here are a bit edgy and vague, not really tying into the themes of the album in a very explicit way. Death to the Holy is definitely more my speed, with the emphasis on the piano and the more groove-driven rhythm. The vocals also have a good deal of flavor and personality, and I think this track does a pretty good job in combining the more intense instrumentals of the post-chorus with the lighter and blues-inspired instrumentals of the verses. I'm also digging the echoing effects here, giving the track a very distant and cold feeling, especially when combined with the glitchy sound effects that are thrown in. I think the lyrics also do a better job in conveying one of this album's major themes, that being, what if former slaves turned to Satanism instead of Christianity like they did in the past? It's an interesting hypothetical scenario that the band has played with before, but I feel like on this record, this is one of the better examples of it. Immersion is definitely one of my least favorite tracks on the record. It's incredibly unfitting for this project with its synthy and dreamy instrumental and then the abrupt screaming chorus, essentially. It's not a true chorus as it's basically an instrumental, but you get the picture. I just feel the combination of these two styles is so awkward and stilted. And because it's an instrumental, there's no vocals to save the lackluster instrumental either, leading to a very underwhelming song. Golden Liar is another one of my least favorites on the project. Something about it just does not gel with me. It feels like your stereotypical alt metal, being very bluesy and anthemic, but also in a very generic way, sounding like the backdrop to like a Ford commercial. The vocals are pretty good, but the song largely doesn't present anything that's very interesting. I also think the build-up to this track is way too long for such little payoff. The defeatist attitude in the lyrics is a pretty interesting lyrical angle, capturing the more pessimistic side of this album's narrative. However, I really wish I had a more compelling instrumental to back it up. The energy is back up with the next track, Erase, giving the song a bit of life. However, I still find the instrumental to be painfully standard with its heavy emphasis on the guttural vocals and chugging guitar. It feels like so many other metal and metalcore acts out there. It's not very unique, and the guitar and glitchy nature of this track is kind of a repeat of Death to the Holy on this same album too, just adding to its sameness. The song is decently composed, even if it's kind of structurally boring, and I do find the sort of somber outro to be pretty interesting with the moody guitar and drum passages. However, there's not much else here. Bow does feel like a bit more of an inspired take on what Golden Liar was going for. The instrumentals are a bit more distorted and industrial, featuring a sort of droning guitar and fuzzy horn sections. However, it still does fall into some mainstream traps with the sort of whooping vocals and arena rock drums. Aside from the whoops, though, the vocals are pretty good, and I think the lyrics are also a bit more descriptive this time around, which helps the song overall. The doom-focused and nihilistic view on the American hegemony was pretty interesting, however, the track is a bit too short to stick the landing. I feel if this track was extended a bit further, it would have had more time to come into its own. Next up we got Feed the Machine, and again, I'm loving the more bluesy instrumentation that's present on the intro to this track. Bringing back the alt metal and metalcore passages was a bit of an odd choice as they largely feel disjointed from the rest of the song, however they do work well as a hook and for the sort of satanic chant that's going on here. It does get a tad repetitive by the end, but I think the song is fun enough overall to where it kind of slips by this problem. I also like the multiple meanings that this track could have, whether it's poking fun at feeding the American war machine, religious doctrine, you name it. Church Burns was another one of the more notable tracks on the record for me. The more delicate instrumentals, if you can call them that, on the intro provide a pretty nice contrast to the rest of the project. The piano and hard rock instrumentals strangely go very well together, and the general vocal cadence here and the track as a whole just kind of reminds me of System of a Down a bit. The song has a bluesy sway to it that's engaging and dynamic, and gives the track some character which is desperately needed on this album. The lyrical angle of committing a great sin just to spite God is a pretty interesting one, and I think it fits the general tone of the album. The last song I wanted to talk about on this project was Hold Your Head Low, because it is by far the best song on the album. The haunting vocals and blues-inspired riffs do a great job at setting the tone, and the vocals carry a similar weight. I love the riffs that come in as the track gets going as well. It's a big tonal highlight for me. The screams and wall of guitar that comes in after the softer vocals are also fantastic, especially when the Hold Your Head Low line comes in. It really feels like a desperate struggle against hopelessness. There's a ton of passion in this song, and I feel like this is the direction the album should have went in overall. Unfortunately for me, this album felt like a huge missed opportunity. My biggest problem with it is just how tropey it all sounds. Some may argue that it's intense, it's dark, it's harsh, but it's predictable in all of these qualities. It's stereotypically harsh, it's stereotypically hard, and I find that to be boring. Because of that, it ends up not being intense or hard at all, because I know what's coming. I hear instrumentals like these from every fucking metalcore band out there, and there's not a lot of the previous Zeal and Ardor charm on this project. The lyrics are alright, but oftentimes are vague, and they're there to shock. But are satanic lyrics even all that shocking anymore? The songs are decently composed and are serviceable metal and hard rock tunes, but more often than not, it feels like the band is kind of just checking off boxes on what constitutes a hard metal song, without actually thinking about the fear and aggression that should have went into it. I just don't think they're tackling this fear and aggression in a very interesting way. Hold Your Head Low was arguably one of the most impactful songs on here, and it's barely hard in the typical sense at all. I feel like if the band tried more of that sound, captured what made that song work, and applied it to the rest of the record, it would have been more solid overall. For this record by Zeal and Ardor, I am feeling a light 5, I guess. Of course, we do have to talk about album covers on this show, and for what it's worth, I think this is a pretty great album cover. It's very much like a Run the Jewels style album cover, very simple, very minimalistic. Love the stark white and black, great color combination. I just think it's very punchy in what it was trying to do, arguably more so than the actual instrumentals, but I think the album cover is very striking. I think it gets the album's message across pretty well, and I just thought it was very well designed. But that is all I had to say about this new album by Zeal and Ardor. What did you guys think? Do you actually think this is a pretty interesting new direction for them? Or is it just kind of a watered down version of what they've done previously? Let me know. Be sure to like, comment, subscribe, ring the bell if you have all that zeal in you. And until the next one, farewell.